All right, let's move along because the main event was next. Not the last match, but the main event of SummerSlam was next. It was, of course, the grudge match long anticipated and awaited between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, the Scottish psychopath, with Seth Franklin Rollins doing his best job of dressing as Elton John if he was refereeing. And I mean, this to me was the main event because they wanted to see what was going to happen with Cody and Solo, whether Roman was going to come back, what the bloodline was going to do. Nobody really believed Solo was going to win the belt. And the anticipation was more as a personal issue on McIntyre and Punk. And I thought it was perfect. As I said, they had their first match, and still the whole focus was really the interaction with Seth Rollins. So they've had their first match on a major event, and they still have all kinds of shit they can do in a rematch without Seth as referee, or both of these guys in singles matches against Seth, because they set everything up. So this was they didn't waste a thing here. It was like when they were making sausage, they got the snout in, the anus, they got everything. They didn't waste a bit of this. And you got Seth's entrance and the people chant and sing and whoa. And you got McIntyre's entrance and he's got heat and the people are on him. And then you got like Mussolini in Cleveland. And you got the big it's clobbering time. And you got in a stadium, as Michael Cole said, the first time in 10 years that CM Punk has had a singles match on WWE television. So this was the big fight feel. And they did it perfect because, again, they have so many other directions to go and so many other things they can do, even in a rematch with Punk and Drew. The crowd was hot for it, and the little things, the little interactions. Punk threw his hoodie on Seth before the match even started, and Seth just doesn't sell it and takes it, and as he's walking to throw it out of the ring, wipes his ass with it and then throws. But anyway, should we talk about the match now that I've droned on about the concept of they've still got every which way to go?
Yes, we should talk about the match.
We should talk about the match. They laid their shit in, and they would basically, they started out, one guy would have the momentum, would have charge of things until Seth would exert his authority, and then while they were arguing, the other guy would take over. And then when something was happening that Seth didn't particularly mind seeing, like Punk is ramming McIntyre's head into the stairs, Seth is tying his shoes. And again, I've seen these spots when I was 10, when you had a babyface as a special referee. But it works here because it's so old, it's new, and nobody has bothered to do this shit in a logical manner for so long. So anyway, so Seth is turning his back on stuff at, blah, blah, blah. And Punk is back to selling as a baby face. And he did that. Drew got heat well. And at the same time as Seth was doing some things where he's letting them play, he didn't start counting cockeyed. All the counts that he gave were normal on false finishes. So he wasn't tipping his hand that he was just going to fuck somebody outright. He's just letting them fight, right? That's what it means. And finally, at one point, Drew gets a chair and Seth sees it, and Drew tells him, hey, just turn around and let this happen. And Seth does, but then as Drew draws back, Seth grabs the chair because he can't go that far, right? It's got to be hand to hand. And then they did the spot reminiscent of Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, The Undertaker, where when Drew pie-faced Seth, Seth swung the chair and Drew ducked, and Seth almost hit Punk, but he held up. So again, this is like some Eddie Graham shit they've laid out here, where they're going back to previous matches and previous things that have happened years ago, and destroying some cliches. And then finally, Drew pulls out the bracelet that he stole from Punk, and he put it on. And he went for a kick, but Punk kicked him and started his comeback and hit the knees and the elbow off the top. And then got the vice on him, but he saw the bracelet, and the bracelet's more important to him than winning. So he pulls the bracelet off of Drew's wrist and gets it back. But Drew then has the opportunity to hit a kick and gets a 2 count. And now he's dropped the bracelet, so Seth gets the bracelet and puts it on, right? Just so nothing happens to it. But then they go back and forth, and Punk calls for the go to sleep. But when he picks up Drew, he sees Seth wearing the bracelet and drops Drew. And then Punk and Seth are arguing. And Drew blasts Punk from behind into Seth, and Seth goes to the floor. Punk foils the DDT and hits the go to sleep and covers, but there's no referee. And the fans count to 7, and Seth gets in 1, 2, and he kicks. And now Punk is yelling at Seth, and Seth's yelling back at him. We don't want you here. It's not all about you, asshole. So Punk picks Seth up and gives him the fucking GTS and takes his bracelet back from Seth. And he turns around and Drew kicks him in the balls and hits the Claymore kick. And McIntyre covers, and now Seth is coming over, and now he counts 1, 2, 3. And then he rolls out and takes his referee shirt off and throws it down and walks the back, and Drew takes the bracelet back and stands over Punk. That's the way you set up a fucking 3-way. That's the way you set up rematches. That's the way you fucking work a special referee goddamn deal. Everything made sense, and you've still got the opportunity to have Punk and Drew have a whole different match the next time they have one with a regular referee. Your thoughts, my fine feathered friend?
At the very end, I have no feathers, and you know that. You're very well aware of that.
I've looked for the feathers. They're not there.
At the very end of the match, or at the very end when Drew picked up the bracelet again, my first thought was he's going to break it. And what will that do? But instead he stored it away, so that continues. Kind of feels like in the end, Punk has to get the bracelet back, and then AJ has to slap whoever, I guess Drew, and then Larry has to piss on him while he's down to really make the comeback complete at this point. I thought it was good. You know, I thought the match was okay. By the end, it got really clever, and I like that. And I thought, you know, again, my personal taste, Rollins as the referee, dressed the way he was and just being a gimmick was a bit distracting from the seriousness of it. And
I held my nose on the outfit because it's Seth and it's the WWE.
But, you know, it started off really hot with them doing a thing where you stand in the middle of the ring and you trade the blows. But I don't know. For two guys that hate each other, to me, it felt like it almost had to be amped up a little more as a match. And but I like everything they did and everywhere they went at the end, because obviously, like you said, it sets up lots of things.
Well, this was their first singles match, but because of circumstances, they've been going back and forth for 6 fucking months. So if they'd have come out there and done tables and chairs and ladders and blood and guts and, you know, barbed wire dildos, whatever, then where do they go in a rematch? You've had the match. You've had this way the distraction of the referee being involved in the middle of it, keeping things from happening, and at the same time being a focal point. They didn't need to do all that shit because there wasn't a spot for it, and they've still got it where they can do it in the future. So I agree with you. Yes, they should do more things, but this was a great way to save that until. So imagine this: they didn't have a nuclear explosion in the first act of the play.
Do you do Punk versus Rollins as a match before you do the next Punk versus McIntyre, or how do you mix it up with these three?
I mean, I think you definitely do one of these other matches before you do another Punk and Drew. And I'm not even sure whether it's Punk and Rollins, because you could do something cleverly on TV before the next big event to build a reason for Seth versus Drew. And then, because maybe Punk is saying, if it hadn't been for that screwy referee, I wouldn't have got beat, which is kind of true. But maybe Drew takes now you're blaming the referee. Well, I could fucking kick his ass. See, I do that accent so good. And then Seth is like, oh, fuck you. I didn't have to count at all. I could have kicked you in the head. And then you've got that. And then Punk fucks Drew out of that, but then Seth gets mad at Punk. Then you have Seth and Punk. But Drew's mad that Seth, you see where I'm going with this? You got all kinds of shit. And that's what it'll be, all kinds of shit. Anyway, would you like to move along?
No, one more thing. How did you think Punk looked in there? First time we've seen him in the ring, obviously, in quite a while, and he got hurt. In AEW, the freak injury where he jumped into the crowd and hit his foot on the barricade. And then the second injury, and then when he came into the WWE. So this is the first time we've really seen him in a while. What'd you think?
I thought he looked good. I don't think he has the cardio of 25-year-old CM Punk, nor do we all. But at the same time, again, you don't want Punk in his first match back in that long of a time, coming out off of multiple injuries where he really hasn't wrestled all that much in the last year and a half. You don't want him trying to do what fucking Edge did and jumping off the top of the cage, right, and breaking his own leg.
Well, I think he's smarter than that, but yeah.
Well, but I'm saying, yes, that's why he didn't do it, Punk is. But I'm saying you don't want him to, because again, this is major money on the line. And when you can get these people to where they're buying the tickets and they're screaming at the top of their lungs and they're reacting to everything, when the guys are having safe and entertaining matches instead of risky car crashes that they really do get hurt from, and you can't capitalize on what you've built, and it hurts the business and it hurts the company and it hurts the talent. I don't see there's anything wrong with that. If the building, the stadium in Cleveland was half full, then they may need to evaluate what they're doing. But as far as I could tell, it's pretty fucking full. And the people were screaming and cheering for things. That's what I used to tell the guys in Ring of Honor. My God, in front of 672 people in Milwaukee, and they can't scream any louder already. And you want to spike pile drive a motherfucker off the fucking roof. So there's levels to this. So I thought what they did, told the story, continued the story, gave them multiple places to go, and it took the people on a fucking ride without goddamn resorting to anybody having to go have emergency surgery afterwards, for fuck's sake. Did that answer your question?
Indeed, it did. Two more matches.
Deedly doodly.
2 more matches.
Well, and that's the thing. Punk's 40 fucking whatever now, so he don't need to be doing a lot of that screwy shit, but he needs to be relying on his personality, his ability to connect with the audience, his reputation, and give them their money's worth in ways other than, taking flat back bumps on beds of fucking nails. And, fortunately, he's in the company where they're all smart enough to want to work toward that goal instead of building fake fucking walls out of drywall so they can be run through them on forklifts.
I think I can watch him and Drew McIntyre just seethe at each other every single week forever and be happy.
Yeah. Just fucking react. Just see the displeasure that each one of them possesses that the other one is alive on the planet.
It's great. You believe it because it's real.
Yeah. Hey, we can't all be bosom buddies.